Hey, Sean. Uh,
Hey,
First of all, how are you feeling?
feel great, Gary. Just outstanding. No, I appreciate you asking, my man. I feeling a little bit better. I think the adrenaline kicked in during the game, and then after the game ended, I felt like total again, but feeling much better now. So on the mend. Um, it's no reason to talk about my health anymore. I'm in good shape, even though I
Okay.
look bad right now.
Any injuries coming out of that game? Can you
You know
update
what?
us?
I think we came out pretty clean with the initial reports talking to Reggie after the game last night. Haven't gotten with him since guys have gotten in this morning. I'll have more updates for you guys on Wednesday.
Okay. Any plan? Do you know yet what the plan will be if there is one, if to possibly activate Tutu Atwell this week?
Have not gone down that road yet, Gary. I think, a lot of that could be contingent upon any sort of injury information that I get. And then a lot of it is predicated on once we get in and dive into the prep for the Lions, exactly how we want to approach things.
Okay. And then finally, from me, just wondering, as in terms of your peace of mind with the way Harrison Mevis has come in and seemed to solidify that kicking game, what does that do for you, just as a coach, in terms of mindset and ability not to have to worry about that too much?
Well, I think it's a tremendous credit to the work that's gone into that phase, from, that group, from Chase, from Ben, from all the guys that are involved in the protection, from Jake McQuaid coming in, from Mevis over the last 5 weeks, Ethan Evans on the holds. And so, the last 5 weeks we've been clean, and I'm really pleased with it. And, we always talk about humility is only, a day away. And so we want to continue to lean into the work, continue to improve. But overall, I can't say enough about how pleased I've been with the operation. It couldn't be any better, and that's the truth.
Thanks very much.
You got it, man.
Sarah,
Sean, on Friday, you were talking about, you asked about Michael LaFleur and you were talking about how much trust you have in him. It sounds like from talking to you yesterday and some players that he took kind of a big role when you were away from the team, when you were sick. What did you either hear about him and kind of the job he did, or what did you see on Sunday from him?
Yeah, it just confirms all the things. It's funny. It's almost like you guys knew I was gonna wake up in the middle of the night and just get terribly sick on Friday. You and Gary asking me about that, but it didn't surprise me. It just confirmed, how fortunate and grateful I am to have a leader like Mike and a great coaching staff on the offensive side, and really, coaching staff in general, that, guys just, they do a great job within their roles. And then if they're asked to step up, all they do is just answer the bell and take it to another level. And so, in a lot of instances, because of the approach that we're typically accustomed to taking on Saturday leading into Sunday, I missed a large portion of that, whether it's dialogue with in the walkthroughs, dialogue with Matthew in terms of how we categorize, how we want to be able to call the game. And we were able to kind of, do that collectively. Normally I'm the one that's kind of got the direct communication. Mike ended up having that yesterday because of some of the things that I missed, and he did a phenomenal job and, made some great decisions. And then we were, like anything, whether I have it or whether he had it, there's always great collaboration. But I thought him and Ryan Wendell and Dave Ragone, Nate Shieldhouse, really, Ron Gould, Eric Yarber, Calabrese, Zach Cromer, Brian Allen, all of our offensive coaches, Scooter Huff, did such a cool job, that I just can't say enough about it. But nothing surprised me, Sarah. It just continued to confirm how fortunate and lucky I am to work with, a great coach like Mike, a great leader, and it's special.
To clarify, Mike was the one actually giving the play call to Matthew during the
He
game yesterday.
was. Yep, he was.
Did you get any feedback from Matthew about how that went?
I didn't. I did not get any feedback, but it was, I mean, I'm on there so I can hear everything that he's saying and we're all communicating. So he did a hell of a job getting it in a timely fashion. And then, it was a really smooth operation.
You talked about wanting to give Blake more carries this year in an effort, not only because of the running back he is, but because you wanted to be able to keep Kyron fresh. What kind of, I guess, discipline did that take in when you get into the flow of the game to make sure you hold yourself to that? And how have you seen it pay off now in week 14?
I think it's really just trust in both of those players, but also, Ron Gould does a good job, Sarah, getting a feel. And then I think there's a cool understanding of like, if you need a blow, like, let the other guy come in. And I think Blake articulated it really well in his post game with you guys yesterday, how they positively spell one another. They positively push one another. But, I think Blake's emergence has been awesome. Kyron's obviously done a great job for the last few years. And you're seeing Blake just earn, more and more confidence, with the production that he's having. And it's a special thing to witness, but I love the way those two are playing off of one another. And Ron does a great job with his feel.
Thank you.
Beecham.
Hey, Sean, we've seen what you do when you have 2 games in 5 days, what you do between the 2 games, but do you do anything different this week to prepare for the 2 games in 5 days stretch that you have coming up?
Not necessarily, Greg. I think this time of the year, when you're talking about just the last quarter of the season, you inevitably have to adjust and adapt just based on where are we at with some of the performance metrics, the numbers. And then, if we do need to take a little bit of the physical workload off, does that affect and influence how we want to practice Wednesday through Friday? And so you might see a little bit more of a modified approach. Is that to do with the last quarter of the season or playing on a Thursday game? I think it's a little bit of both. But in the early parts of the season, you're not necessarily as worried about it. So I guess to appropriately answer your question, there is a yes because of the time of the year with that Thursday game coming up. But don't get it twisted. Our sole focus and concentration is on, trying to have a great week of preparation for the Lions.
Yeah, and you've a separate note. You've used 3 tight ends a lot. We've talked about it. Yesterday, you used them a ton. Like, I think it's the most you've ever used 3 tight ends in a game here. Does that have a cumulative effect in terms of like preserving running backs, receivers, getting them a few less snaps that make them maybe a little bit fresher down the road? Is that any concern, or is it just attacking the game with what it presents you every week?
It's a great point, Greg. It's absolutely a part of the equation. I think there's multiple things without getting, too specific from a tactical standpoint. But when you talk about it lessens the workloads for some of those other skill players, there's real benefits to that. I think, I've alluded to this before when we talked about, just using all 48 guys up on our roster. Our tight ends had higher numbers. The receivers were a little bit lower. Obviously, when you're able to get a lead, you're going to lean on running it a little bit more and trying to be able to really compete against the clock as opposed to the opponent, once we got up a handful of possessions. And so that was why we were able to get off a bunch of those snaps. And then in the early parts of the game, they came out in a lighter grouping and they basically dared you to run it based on what they were doing. And to the guys' credit, and, Coleman, the offensive line, and Matthew, and, the rest of the tight ends and the receiver that were on the field, they did a good job of being able to recognize it and get good, efficient runs early on.
Thank you.
You got it, man.
Adam.
Hey, Sean, in week 1, when you deployed 12 and 13 against the Texans, it was a matchup-based decision similar to last year against the Vikings. That's obvious.
Say that again. Sorry, the first part of your question cut out. My bad.
No. In week 1, when you deployed 13 and 12 against the Texans, it was a matchup-based decision similar to last year against the Vikings. That's obviously shifted midseason into an identity for this year's offense. What were the conversations like between you and your staff as that shift started to happen midseason from matchup-based to identity?
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we're always figuring out ways to try to be able to advance. A lot of it, I think a lot of it came up organically. We really sprinkled in 13 for the first time. We had some 12 personnel like you're talking about, but then the first time that we actually got 3 tight ends out on the field was against Baltimore and some situational stuff in the tight red that we went when we were up and they were jumping into some heavier groupings, but it was just sprinkled, and then you start saying, okay, what can we do with this? Puka ended up getting injured. We were obviously, without Tutu against Baltimore. And so that Jacksonville, that week in Baltimore leading up to Jacksonville, but it was really kind of just sprinkled it. Then we were able to have, a handful of snaps that we got off against Jacksonville and London. And it's really we've just kind of built on it since. And so the guys have played really well. I think it's helped give us an identity. And it's really done a lot of the things that Greg talked about relative to taking advantage of all of our players, but also lessening the workload that allows some of the skill players, particularly the wideouts, to be fresher in some known pass situations. And so, we want to continue to be multiple. And it's not always going to be applicable. We were a little bit more 12 oriented against Tampa. And so every week presents a different approach, but I do think the multiple personnels and the more multiple we can be while taking advantage of our players, and then how does that ultimately give us matchup and tactical advantages, both from a personnel and a schematic standpoint against the upcoming opponent, are all the factors. But it's just kind of an organic evolution based on, some things that ended up happening, and where we kind of just really started sprinkling it in against Baltimore in little bite-sized increments.
Yeah, guys have talked about those bite-sized increments too. How do you decide how to parcel that out when you're installing a whole personnel package mid-season?
Well, number one, it takes really smart players. Our tight end room is incredibly smart. Like, I can't say enough about, obviously Higgs is out right now, but how smart he is. Colby, Davis Allen, and then just the overall versatility of Terrance Ferguson. I mean, the amount of different positions, I know he might not have shown up on the stat sheet, but that guy is doing a hell of a job for us. He's going to be a hell of a player, and he's becoming a hell of a player before our eyes. But just their versatility, their smarts. You do it a little bit at a time, but if there's sequencing behind it, and then you got a great coach in Scooter Huff, and the things make sense where it kind of fits off of previous things that they know, you can just kind of build on it, and that's what we've been able to do.
And how does that impact practice, particularly before the team portion of the day?
In what regards do you mean?
Does it impact the way we've seen some install when quarterbacks would normally be doing receiver lines with the tight ends or something like that?
Oh, I got you. Yeah, you know what? We might
practice?
have a little bit more individual oriented stuff. We're getting a lot of stuff where tackles, tight ends are spending some time together. But I would say the biggest, it doesn't influence a whole lot, because once you get to this part of the season, we'll do a couple competitive things against our defense, but for the most part, it's projecting what are the looks that we're expecting against the opposing team that we're preparing for Wednesday through Friday. And so, you maybe adjust a little bit of the individual portions that are, more specific to what's going to be asked within the framework of the game for your players, but hasn't been too drastic, just based on the nature of, how we're practicing. But again, going back to Greg's point, it does kind of lessen the load of just the amount of just sheer volume on our receivers, where we were almost exclusively 11 in previous years. And now there's a lot of balance. And yesterday we were a lot heavier in 13, and, who knows exactly what it's going to, appear against Detroit once we get our plan together and figure out what's the best way to attack them. Let you know on Monday morning.
Has this been a fun challenge for you and your staff to conceptualize some of these plays after living in 11 for so long?
It has been. Ryan Wendell and I were talking about that last week, and I just think the more ball you get exposed to, different groupings, different personnel matches, different ways that you can take advantage of your players, it has been stimulating for our coaching staff. And, like I said, Mike and those guys, they've just done such a great job of allowing this thing to, organically evolve as the season's gone, just based on our players. And that's always where it starts with our guys.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Dude, then Wyatt.
Sean, sticking with the tight end room, just what have you seen specifically from Colby Parkinson specifically this year, and how is he a different player maybe compared to last year when he was in his first year with the team?
I've just seen a guy that just is so present and so settled and just so enjoying playing. And he's obviously so gifted, but he works hard. He's got the right mindset mentally and physically. He's got a great skill set. I think he's surrounded by a bunch of teammates that love and care about him and believe in him. And it's the same thing with his coaches. And, you try to put him in situations that maximize the things that he does well. And he's doing a lot of really cool stuff right now. He's making great plays in the pass game. He's being a key critical factor in the run game. And in a lot of instances, he's at the point of attack. And, he's done a great job, and I could say the same thing for Davis. And I mentioned about Ferg, but just really happy for him. But a guy, I think our players are at their best when they're enjoying it and they're locked in. And that's what I'm seeing from Colby. And it's been really fun to witness.
And then for you, this is seventh time in your 9 years as head coach with a 10-win season. Obviously, that takes, staff, players, like a collective effort to achieve that. And I know you wouldn't be the first person to take individual credit for that. So with that in mind, just what does, that measure of success mean to you, knowing the staffs and the kinds of players you've worked with to achieve that?
Yeah, it's about the people. You just said it, Stu. I think the first thing that comes to mind is gratitude, appreciation for being surrounded by a lot of people that do a phenomenal job in their roles and push you to want to be better for them. And that's players and coaches. And so I think, that consistency of people we talk about all the time, consistency is the truest measure of performance. I tell you what's been consistent is great people that I've been surrounded with. And you really just sometimes want to get out of the way and let them do, their thing. And I think you're getting more and more comfortable with understanding, where you're needed, where you could fit, but also realizing how fortunate I am to be surrounded by great players and coaches and cherish it, enjoy it, lean in every single day. But the number one thing that comes to mind is just very appreciative of being surrounded by special people, because that's what will always matter. That's the most important thing, and it'll always be the most important thing. And that'll never be forgotten here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You got it, man.
What?
Hey, Sean. This run game has been super successful, especially recently. And leaning on outside zone and duo, what makes the offensive line and the tight ends and the skilled players who block, like what makes those so successful concepts for you guys?
Well, I think the execution, it's about the players, that the players are ultimately bringing it to life. They're executing. I think yesterday was a great illustration of guys getting connected. And then I thought the backs, got everything was blocked for and then more. You look at Blake's long run. Kyron had a handful of good slash running, and so it always takes all 11, but it doesn't necessarily matter what the concept is. They're just bringing it to life. I think they have an ownership and an understanding of what the intent is. So there's that clarity. There's great communication pre-snap, and then the post-snap execution and the strain and finish. And then backs are doing their thing. And so it's been really good, especially the last few weeks. And, we got to continue to do that because like I've told you guys before, you show me a good offense, I'll show you an offense that can do either or. And it doesn't necessarily, but it's a numbers game. And if they want to lean one way or the other, you have to be able to make them pay. And I think our guys have done a great job of being able to keep teams off balance. And in a lot of instances, we're avoiding third downs because of the efficiency that these guys are having on early downs from a run and, when we decide to throw the football perspective.
And we've seen a lot of different guys step up into larger roles this year, whether it was Xavier Smith or Blake Corum, and a lot of people have talked about just your ability to instill belief in people. So I guess what's your approach in just getting people to believe that they're capable of more than they might have ever thought themselves?
Yeah, I don't know that there's not a specific approach. There's a consistency in terms of trying to authentically make them feel that way. It's cool to hear, but I think it's more about actions, the consistent rhythm and routine, the way that you act, interact, and respond, and the way that you try to pour into these guys. We try to be, really transformational, but there's a lot of love that you have for these people, and you try to really lean into helping them reach and realize their highest potential. And that's as, people, but and then that's also as players. And it's people first and players second. But that's I think that's the job of a coach is to shine light on others. And and that's what we really try to do in an authentic way. And when guys say that, it sure makes me very, very happy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Hey, Colby, how are you?
Good, man. How you doing?
Doing well. Yesterday, you guys had your best rushing performance of the season and really in a long time. Just as someone who's out there on those plays as a blocker, what is that feeling like to build that type of performance throughout a game to a point where, whether it's Kyron back there, Blake, or even Ronnie, that you're able to just keep running and keep finding success?
Yeah, I mean, we had a great plan going into the game. Obviously, the Cardinals pose a lot of different looks defensively. With that three safety defense, they're flying around all over the place. So we had a great plan throughout the week, and we're able to just trust each other out there. And that first drive, we kind of got a feel for how things were going to go, and just building confidence, playing and play out, and having guys like Kyron and Blake and Ronnie being able to run the ball like they do, and makes it a lot of fun.
And you guys ran lots of 13 personnel. You've done that this year, but more yesterday than ever before. And obviously it paid off in the run game and the scoreboard. Just can you explain as someone, as one of those three tight ends out there, what kind of advantage does it give you to be one of three different tight ends when it comes to the run game and the pass game?
Yeah, we're just able to handle different looks. Like I said, the Cardinals, they have a good defense, and it's hard sometimes to know where they're going to fit. But when we're playing with, tight ends that kind of see the game the same way through the same lens, it's very helpful to when those last minute moves, last second moves before the snap happen defensively, we're able to just play off each other, me, Davis, and Ferg out there yesterday. So it helps a ton, and it's a lot of fun being able to get all three of us going, and obviously looking forward to getting Higgs back here soon.
And then just lastly, what do you notice that personnel grouping does for a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, who's so experienced and said so much before the snap to be able to kind of manipulate or make decisions with that group out there?
Yeah, I mean, he has total control out there. He's so much fun to be in the huddle with and just see his control of the game. I think he likes 13 a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of different things we can do. We can run the ball. We can get into some, drop back stuff and play action stuff too. So it kind of just opens up the playbook. But all of that starts with running the ball well. So that first drive really opened up the whole playbook for us yesterday.
Thank you.
Yep.
Stu.
You've been getting a lot of practice with the crab hand celly the last 5 weeks. I don't know if you know, but that was your fourth touchdown catch in your last 5 games. Just how would
Yeah.
you describe, the enjoyment that you've been playing with, this season and the way you've been able to, contribute and impact the team's success?
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's just been an enjoyable year. I'm not out there trying to score touchdowns for myself or do this or that selfishly. I really just want the team to do well and to play to the best of my abilities for the team and whatever that looks like. Early on wasn't getting the ball as much in the red zone, and I was totally fine with it as long as I was helping the team win. And I think all of us tight ends have that same mindset. So it's really fun to be a part of a selfless group like that where everyone just wants to help the team and no one's concerned about themselves too much. So it's been a lot of fun. We're excited to, keep it going this week.
Is there a big difference that there's been for you between your second year with the team versus your first? I mean, obviously you've played in the NFL for a while, but just in terms of comfortability with the offense or whatever it may be, like what does that look like for you this year?
Definitely, going to a new place is always a little difficult. There's some growing pains. Um, just being comfortable with the playbook, being comfortable with the guys, with the coaching staff, and everyone. So, just coming back for the second year with the Rams has been such a blast, and getting to know Sean more and the whole offensive staff. I just feel super comfortable here, and it's been fun, and I think that shows with all of us tight ends out there on the field too.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Dennis.
Hey, Kobe, how are you?
Good man, how you doing?
Good. How would you describe, well, how much have you learned under or working with Matthew?
Yeah, a ton. I mean, he sees the game like no one I've played with before. His understanding of concepts of the playbook of what every single person on the field is doing on every single play. It's really impressive and it's really fun to be around and just to see his brain working the way it does. It inspires me to try to be better and take the game to the next level like he does.
And where would you say your level of play will be at right now, I suppose, when you first got into the league?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely grown a lot as a blocker. Coming into the league, I was more of a pass catcher in college. So taking on that role early on in my career to make myself the best blocker I can be. And, it's a work in progress. I've never want to feel like I've arrived because I never will arrive. It's a work in progress trying to get better each and every week. And I think the humility, like I've said about this whole tight end group, it shows in practice. We go out every week and we are trying to get better every single day. And it's a really fun and enjoyable environment to be a part of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam.
Hey, Colby, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, man.
To circle back to some of the 13 personnel stuff, I'm curious like what it's been like just being part of that position group as that package and really just like the whole personnel grouping of it has been installed mid-season, kind of on the fly week by week.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. In camp, we all talked about as a tight end group that we need to earn the right to be in 12 personnel, earn the right to be in 13 personnel. And I think we took that mindset into the season, just trying to play to the best of our abilities and um, make us be a benefit to the team when we're all on the field. So each week when we get the installs, we all scroll to the bottom to see what type of 13 stuff we have in. And, this past week was fun to see the install and see what the plan was going in against the Cardinals to run a lot of 13 and obviously worked out pretty well. So hopefully we can keep doing more of that.
I know like the package started to grow, the Ravens and Jaguars weeks, but
Mhm.
like when did you and the room as a whole feel like you had earned that right, like you talked about in camp?
Um, yeah, I mean, like you said, the Ravens week was the first week we had 13 up, and did pretty well with that. Jaguars, we also did pretty well. So I think after that, we kind of realized that the better we play in 13, the more likely we are to get more of it up week in and week out. So, like I said, though, we never feel like we've arrived. We got to keep earning it each and every week and start some practice.
We saw some plays being installed during what would usually be like the receiver line drill and things like that during practice. Just in what other ways has that install impacted like the usual rhythms of practice through that period of time?
Well, in practice, we are all getting a lot more reps than normal. Usually, I mean, last year specifically, I mean, I'm used to 11 personnel and, we're each getting a third of the reps, but now in 13, we're all out there for pretty much every play. So that's been a little different, but other than that, not too much has changed.
And a couple years ago, when the offense shifted to duo run block, Sean addressed the team about the philosophical change in the blocking scheme.
Mhm.
Has there been any moment like that, or has it really just happened more gradually and naturally?
I think gradually, we've earned that confidence over the course of these last, whatever it's been, 6, 7 weeks since the Ravens game. And it's more of a mindset throughout the tight end room too. It's like, hey, they trust us. Let's keep earning that trust every week.
Thanks, Colby.
Yeah, thanks.
And then we'll wrap with Gary and then Brock.
Hey, Colby, thank you for doing this.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Um, Sean was saying that although it may not show on the stat sheet, Terrance is really growing by leaps and bounds. I'm just
Mhm.
curious from your perspective what you've seen from him since he arrived to what he's doing now.
Yeah, I mean, Ferg is a great guy. He is willing and able to do anything that he's asked to do. Early on in the 13 personnel stuff, he wasn't doing as much blocking, but you see him out there now. He's getting in there and he is helping the team out for sure. So I completely agree with what Sean said. He's grown a ton in this first year of his what will definitely be a long career. So thankful to have him on the team. Excited to see him continue to grow, and you've seen glimpses of what he's done in the past game, and he's definitely a special talent. So excited to be a part of his career early on.
When you had mentioned, like when you first came into the league, you had to make some adjustments just in terms of in blocking and learning how to perfect that. In watching his development, what do you recall about him initially and kind of the player that now he's with the confidence he's playing with now?
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. It's just confidence. Early on, I can remember being a rookie, not really too sure of myself, not really sure of the scheme that I was walking into, and then as the years progress, just becoming more and more confident, and you can definitely see that in him. The way he's playing out there, his understanding of the playbook. We ask him to do a lot of things offensively, especially in these 13 personnel packages where he's moving all over the place, and he's on it. He's got a great football mind, and he's able to do the right thing pretty much all the time, which is really impressive for a rookie. And again, like I said, he's willing and able to block and do whatever is asked of him.
Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Brock.
As you go and develop as a player, and then also have to. First of all, I apologize. Hi, Colby. How are you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
My fault. But as you're, learning different schemes, techniques, and also changes of scenery, how does having three different tight ends coaches over 3 years impact you doing that?
Yeah, I mean, each of them are very unique, and I'm very thankful for all my tight ends coaches. I think I've pulled things from each of them and added to my tool belt throughout the years. So thankful for each of them. I was able to see, Pat last week against the Panthers, and obviously we saw Kale's first week against the Texans, and now with Scooter, it's been a blessing to have three really, really great tight end coaches, and thankful for all of them.
Yes, and your current coach Scott Huff, he has an interesting personality. How does that how does that impact the tight end room, and how has that developed into the offense as well?
Yeah, yeah. Huff is the man. I mean, he is a phenomenal coach. We all love him and super thankful for him. I think his history of being a player, playing center at Boise and all that is really helpful. He understands the game at a player level really well, and he's able to relate to us and break it down pretty simply for us. And it's he's a fun guy to play for, and we all love and respect him for sure.
And my last question is outside of the Rams, of course, your former collegiate offensive coordinator, Tavita Pritchard, just got rehired by your alma mater as head coach. Can you share your thoughts on the move and what people can expect from him?
Yeah, I'm super excited for Ta. I mean, he is a phenomenal dude. I think that is a great hire for Stanford. Excited to see what he does with the program moving forward. I know it's only up from here. So Tavita is a very personable guy. I mean, he's going to kill it with recruiting. He's the perfect Stanford man. Obviously, he played there in the early 2000s and had some of the most memorable games in Stanford history. So excited to see what he does and excited to get back on the farm and see him up there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Colby.
All right, thanks. God bless, guys. Yeah.
Nate, we're so used to the peanut punch forced fumbles, but obviously getting an interception on Sunday. What was it like being able to create yet another takeaway and impact the game in that way, and in particular get a pick?
Yeah, it was cool. I told Sean McVay before that in the locker room I was due, whether that was a punch out or something. So glad it came to light. But yeah, it's good coverage, by the other guys, and Jacoby had to go through his read and then came back, and I don't think he saw me. The rush was in his face, so definitely a team effort, but a good opportunity and led to some points.
Mentioned the team effort. I think the entire defense was involved in that celebration after the interception too. Was that like planned? I guess just what inspired that, and also giving Kobe the ball to have him spike it at the very end.
Yeah, it was all unplanned. We hadn't talked about it. When I stood up and everybody runs to the sideline and I just slid for whatever reason. Everybody joined in, and then I like the big man spikes on offense. So I saw Kobe there, and it was all natural, and I think that's why it turned out so good.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Adam.
Was Kobe ever able to find the ball for you?
Yeah, I think Stu actually picked it up because when he spiked it, it went like 20 feet in the air. I think Stu picked it up. I got it though at the end of the game.
Okay, good. I'm sure you guys haven't started looking at Lions film yet, but a pretty big challenge coming in that Detroit backfield. Like, what are just kind of your early impressions from watching this season? What Gibbs and Monty are doing?
Yeah, the good combo between those two. Obviously, Gibbs, the speed that he plays with is a game changer. His ability to join the pass route, the pass tree, and affect the game that way. And then you got Montgomery, the way he runs downhill, and it's kind of a good 1-2 punch. They play off each other. Got a good quarterback, got good skill. It's going to be a good battle though.
Through the course of your career, teams have started to lean more on that like two running back system in terms of having that 1-2 punch. I'm curious like how that has impacted either preparation or just like how you guys play against the run, knowing they have different things that they can run for different guys on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, you pick up on different tendencies, what they like to do with different backs. Some guys are better at pass pro. Some guys are better at outside zone versus inside zone runners. So you look at that back skill set, obviously with Gibbs speed. So they want to get him out in space, get him out in the route tree quick, or motion to empty. So you can kind of change and narrow down your mindset of kind of the offensive calls that you're going to get, and then match that with the right defensive call.
Thanks, Nate.
Dennis.
Hey, Nate, how are you?
Great, thanks. How you doing?
Good. How would you describe the identity of the defensive unit?
Just relentless. Our mantra is kind of make them snap it one more time. It's an imperfect game, and we all want to have our best games, every game, but that's the reality. That's not the case. I think we do a good job of building off each other, playing with relentless effort, and then making them snap it one more time. Making them go the long hard way down to the end zone and not giving up explosives, but just that relentless mindset that they're going to have to deal with us every snap. I think is leading to our success.
And as a veteran player, how important is the communication on game day between everybody?
It's huge. Communication is priority number one, and that starts with me getting the call in from Shu. If we're all lined up, we get the call in quick, and everybody's reading their keys. I think that's when we're at our best. So, and then, that starts with communication, me getting everybody lined up and getting everybody to call, and then each given call has 2 or 3 checks in it, getting to the right check that's, advantageous for us. So communication is, the paramount thing for us for sure.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And then we'll wrap with Gary and then Wyatt.
Hey, Nate, thank you for doing this. Appreciate it. Um, you know, looking back at yesterday's game, what happened during that first drive and what changed after that initial time on the field?
Yeah, we got to start faster, and that starts with myself. We did a good job stopping the run on that first play, and then they came out with the screen. And poor tackling on my end. I got to make the tackle to limit that gain. Put that one on me. And then, they had a good play call on the next one. They hit, the tight end up the seam. And then, kind of had us on our heels a little bit. And then we kind of locked in as the game kept going. Got him off the field that next drive. And, we start a little slow, which is not what we want to do. We want to, start fast and build as the game keeps going. It's something that we'll work on to practice this week for sure.
Is there any kind of like emotional reset, after something like that happens? Because obviously not the way you guys want to start, but when you get to the sideline or when you're preparing to go back out, is it just kind of business as usual, or is there some kind of collective coming together before you go out there again?
Uh, yeah, I might bring the guys up and say something, but it's no panic on our end. This game's full of ebbs and flows. You're gonna have small amounts of adversity in every part of the game. So it's responding to that in the right way. It's not taking the highs too high and the lows too low. So just trying to keep everybody even keel, and trusting our process, trusting our game plan, and start a little faster. That's what we'd hope to do, but. Once we settled in and just played our game and played our keys, that's when we're at our best.
Mhm. You mentioned kind of the 1-2 punch of that running backs offer. You and Omar kind of offer a 1-2 punch on the defensive side. What's it been like playing next to him, and how would you kind of describe for a fan that's just watching what he's like?
Yeah, he's a quiet guy off the field, and then when he gets in between those white lines, he kind of flips a switch. Omar's kind of the unsung hero of this defense. Doesn't get as much credit as I think he deserves. He's great in the run, great communicator. Me and him play off each other well, and just strong physical presence there. A true middle linebacker. You can see his knockback tackles in the run game. Great in zone coverage, great in anything you need to do. Breaks glass when he blitzes. So true unsung hero of this defense. Love playing next to O. He's making me a better player, and I definitely wouldn't be having, the success. The defense wouldn't have the success that it's having without Omar for sure.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Wyatt.
Hey Nate, thanks for doing this.
Sure.
Between the punch outs and just how you've played this year, you've kind of become somewhat of a fan favorite. Do you feel kind of that love, and is that something that you've experienced before?
Kind of go back to college days and Boulder. I'm not crazy active on social media and stuff like that, so I don't see too much, but you can definitely feel the crowd, when we're playing at SoFi. Even this Sunday in Arizona, the crowd was great. Glad that the fans are coming out to support, and we just want to win for them, win for this program. So you can definitely feel the rise of the fan engagement for the team for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nate.
Appreciate it. Have a good